The views and opinions of this show, thought of the hosts and no one else. In fact, they don't even agree with each other most of the time. He is, oh, the Hornets nest.
Good morning, Poke the Hornet's Nest. I'm here with Doug. Doug's here. He's been on a hiatus. He's been gone for 3 weeks. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey,
Well,
I've
I would love to
got
say it was a
big
hiatus.
news.
Go ahead. You go first.
I got big news. I mean, big news.
I got bigger news.
Big news.
I got bigger news.
No, you don't have bigger news.
You go first, and then I'll top you.
Mark
You
Mazzano's
both
running
have
for city
big news.
council.
Mark Mazzano's running for city council.
That's what I read in the paper.
Well, guys, is that big news?
Well, I think so. He's the best city councilor we've had. Tennessa's given him a run for that title now, the way she has been honest about the finances with the city of Reading. I'd have to say that she qualifies to be right on up there. Mark, in my opinion, who I believe is liberal as hell, put all his political leanings aside and did what was best and fought for our city the best way he could. And I hope he is running. The article I said they said he had till, I think, August 10th to file the papers, and they didn't know whether he had filed by then or not, but that's what the headline said.
Well,
So
there
Nick,
you go.
he is running. That is confirmed. He is running. And I'm really glad you pointed out he's liberal as hell, because that is also facts.
Yes, it is. And, now that we're on the subject.
That was a
of-
voice from Leslie for the record. So it's just so we all have that
Now
clear.
that we're talking about, the leanings of people that are running for office, I've been told that Mike Gallagher is a Bethelite.
Does not surprise me.
So, that ought to be interesting. When Plummer got in, I said, this is Bethel getting their foot in the door of the county to take it over the same way they've taken over the city of Reading. Haven't they done a good job? And so now they want to pull the same crap on Shasta County.
Oh, and they will. It's going to happen. I mean, the problem is conservatives don't vote. And so these people get in, and then all we do is bitch about how did this happen? And then did you vote? Well, no, I didn't. I didn't like the candidates. You don't get a choice. You get what you get, and you choose what you can. And you can't bitch later on that, you didn't vote. Once I hear someone goes, well, no, I didn't vote, then I don't even talk to them. I just shut them up and say, then you don't have an opinion.
Yeah, but the thing is, what you're not taking into consideration is the guy didn't vote, so he doesn't get the blame for the crap that's going on because he didn't vote for one of those people that's pulling the crap.
Well, you and I had a conversation before this thing, but let me first do this, and then I'll get back to our conversation. September 19th, make sure you put it on your calendar. The Wild Horse Sanctuary in Shingletown is having an annual open house. Vendors, live music, food trucks, demonstrations, and it's from 11 to 4, and it is free for the family and everybody to come up and take a look. See one of the gems of the North State, 5,000 acres with 210 wild Mustangs. So
with a brand new fence all the way around it.
With miles, and I mean literal miles of new fencing around the damn thing. So anyways, September 19th, you're invited. I will probably be the greeter that you'll see when you first come in. So I hope to see you guys there. So back to your thing. Yes, if you vote, you have to take credit for the failings of your candidate. And if
you didn't vote, you don't get blamed for what's going on.
Yeah, but you also don't get to have an opinion on what's going on because you didn't.
Oh, no. Now you're making up the rules as you go
No,
along.
you don't get to have an opinion.
Well, I voted, but
if
you didn't vote.
No, if you didn't vote, you don't get an opinion.
You didn't participate in our unlawful political atmosphere.
Well, I don't care. The fact is, if you did not vote, see, the problem is
if
people
you're making
voted.
up the rules, I can make up the rules.
That's true. But if you vote, you at least can say, I voted. I thought this person. Now, be it left or right. I thought this person.
I didn't vote, so I didn't make a mistake.
Well, that's the problem.
You guys did it. You guys that voted have ruined our country. You've ruined our county. You've ruined our city because you voted.
Well, the thing is, what you're finding in conservative North State is we keep getting these liberals in there, and then and it shows that if conservatives actually did vote. If they actually did vote, we have a 2-to-1, according to the county registrar, a 2-to-1 spread of conservative or Republican versus Democrat.
I don't believe that.
They've said it for years. They've said we're at about 60+%.
Have you ever seen a liberal that registered as a conservative?
No.
Yeah. Lots of them do. Look at Leonard Modi.
I would.
Look at Aaron Reisner.
Look at Rickards.
Look
There
at Mark
you go.
Mazzano. Look
Yeah.
at
And they
Mary
count,
Rickard.
so-
Well, I'm saying, but my point being is, so theoretically, we have this 2-to-1 advantage in terms of Republican over Democrat, or Republican and Democrat, and the reality is we keep losing to liberals. So somewhere in there, a massive portion of our conservative base is not voting for whatever the reason. I always go back to the fact that, since I was 18, old Ronnie Reagan was the president, and I have voted in every single election, regardless. Even when I was overseas, I got an absentee ballot once in Holland to vote for the president when it was Clinton at the time. I've always voted. I've taken the effort to do it because, as the saying goes, there are people who spilled blood to get us that right. And the least we can do is honor that sacrifice. And so I may not agree. You and I may be opposites of political, but if you vote and I vote, I think we have an opinion. We can state it. If you don't vote, you're not
So you're
participating.
saying we're opposite. He just agreed that he's a liberal.
I just agreed that I am. I'm liberally accepting you.
That's pretty good.
So Nick, if somebody's bitching and I go, well, did you vote? And they say no. And then I said, I just walk away. I just, I'm not listening to you. If you don't take the time to try and help steer the country, you don't get the bitch about the direction that it gets put in. And even if we vote people in,
Well, you're making up the rules when you
well,
say that.
even if we vote people in and they don't do exactly what we want, like the current president and the entire Senate and Congress, because there's a three, we have a supermajority in the federal government, and they can't do anything.
Well, now there you go. You're talking about what's our supermajority in the Senate?
Well, we've got
49 to 51.
Well, no, my point being is we have all three
and you
houses.
got Susan Collins and those liberals.
Well,
that
we have
claim
all three houses. We have this president, the Senate, and the House. That's a mandate, and yet we can't get anything. We can't get the SAFE Act pushed through, and we have all three, and theoretically we have all four branches of the government. And I say four because I consider the House separate, the Senate separate, president, and theoretically we have a 6-3 Supreme Court, though it is quite common 5-4 liberal. It's really weird.
Actually, we've got a 6-2 because that one gal, she isn't qualified to be there.
Kamanji Haji, whatever her name is,
Jesus,
she's incredibly.
Jumped up Christ on a pogo stick. How'd she get in there?
Even during her confirmation, she
That
wouldn't
was
identify.
a slap in our face.
She wouldn't even identify what a woman was.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we put that person in charge of telling us what's lawful. And
How
did you know
the Constitution is to be interpreted?
And did you know,
I'll
Nick,
bet
you don't
you-
need to be a judge to even be a Supreme Court justice?
Oh, that's right. Bush tried to do Harriet Myers.
Yeah, well, you don't need to be a judge at all. You don't even need to be a lawyer. It was set up to simply have somebody who would interpret the Constitution as written, and does it apply to the case in front of them. And so technically speaking, you do not need to be a lawyer on the Supreme Court. But that is defaulted to where we've gone. And when a woman can't identify what a woman is, that ought to be automatic disqualification.
Well, they shouldn't be legislating anyway. They shouldn't be giving their opinions, their legislature opinions. They should be saying, this doesn't qualify under the Constitution of the United States. That's their job, to see if this law is lawfully constitutional.
That's their only mandate. That's
That's
their
it.
only. If that was the case, Obamacare would not be on us, and many of these laws that we're now stuck with would not be. Affirmative action would not be. None of this shit would be with us if it wasn't for the Supreme Court acting as judicial warriors that go, the direction of the
We probably
wind.
wouldn't have a lot of these laws that bureaucrats make that
That's
aren't
our
even
point.
elected.
Yeah, that's my point. Is if they were to go and say, because the Constitution says laws will be made by the legislative branch.
That's right.
And not by bureaucrats who are unelected into, $100,000 a year paychecks and don't have any responsibility to deal with the public. That would be unconstitutional. But here we are. There you go. But I was talking to Nick. We had coffee before this morning's show, and I was telling him that voting for Democrats, Republicans, it really doesn't matter anymore because we have all three houses, and we're not getting anything done. We're not getting anything that we were promised to get done. As a matter of fact, I think the commander-in-chief may go down as the most corrupt man in history.
The one that closed the borders.
He closed the border.
Taking the criminals out.
Well, no, he closed the borders. We'll give him that. After that, name one thing he's done that he's promised.
Made a lot of money.
He's making, he's, I mean, let this sink in. For anybody who's mega and wants to bash on me, please bash on me. But he's got a public records. He has to file them. He has almost 4,000 stock trades with almost 100% winning record. What are the odds in that?
He's simply trying to beat Pelosi's record.
Well, no, but it's funny you make that comment, but we conservatives were up in arms when we saw the shit that's Pelosi et al. Were doing, and that's insider trading, and that's BS. Trump has now gone public and said, for $100,000 a month, I will give you my tweets before I put them out so you can make money. That's insider trading. It's Trump. It's our guy.
Did he say that so you can make money?
Why
Did
else?
you add that to it?
No. Why else would you give away your tweet before it goes public
So
to people?
you just added, you just
No,
put words in his mouth he didn't say.
No, I guarantee.
We've had that
Go talk
happen
to-
locally with Kelly Frost against Chris Kellstrom.
What's that?
Chris made the comment when he was on Kelly's show that he thought that some of his friends said that they got Mike Gallagher mixed up with the Gallagher that was running for...
James Gallagher.
Okay, so Kelly Frost comes on the next show, and he says that Chris said the voters are so stupid they shouldn't be voting. That they thought they were voting for James Gallagher instead of them. And then the next show, he says Chris said the voters are just too stupid to vote. Chris didn't say that. Kelly put words in his mouth.
I actually had a conversation with Chris. Had him out on my dinner table a couple months ago, so I know well enough to invite him to my house. And he talked about the fact that Gallagher put out his signs that just say Gallagher. They didn't say James Gallagher. They just said, they were green signs that said Gallagher, and then you had Mike Gallagher with his. And he said, he goes, one of the things that his inner circle are saying that could, he didn't say it did, but he said could throw the election is people see Gallagher and Gallagher, and they think it's all the same.
So Kelly Frost says, Chris said people are too stupid to vote because they can't tell the difference between the Gallaghers.
He just
basically
said, the reality is we.
But as far as I'm concerned, Gallagher's a big government guy.
Of course,
more government.
Yeah,
we don't need that.
Okay, and let's clarify. You're talking Mike Gallagher is a big government guy, not James Gallagher. James Gallagher is doing a great job representing us because we've had no representation. Mike Gallagher is the world's nicest man, but he believes in big government, and he really wants that True North medical facility.
Oh, no. Hey, I've got something to segue into that. Kingsview. Have you heard of Kingsview?
No.
They have just canceled a contract with Shasta County. It's a nonprofit that serves 23 counties in California, and Shasta County is one of them, and they're complaining that they were having a hard time getting paid for the period between contracts.
Okay.
Evidently, their contract didn't go from January to January or whatever. And it was all dependent on state and federal money, and they're blaming it on California or on Shasta County. They didn't get paid. That's the way I interpret it. But about 4 or 5 supervisors meetings ago, the Honorable Supervisor Kevin Cry brought a conversation to fruition about limiting the amount of money that a nonprofit that gets money from Shasta County can spend on administration, and that would include salaries and everything. Mm-hmm. So I went to the nonprofit website, and Kingsview, who has their total revenue, come on, get out of there, frog. Their total revenue was $60,386,786. They spent on just salaries and wages. This doesn't count rent or liability insurance or stationery or phone or internet. Just on salaries, $32,258,536. They spent 57.9% of that $60 million on salaries. On top of that, the gal, her name is Amanda Devine. Her compensation, she's the head cheese there, $283,000 $505. The year before it was $234,550.
A 50 grand pay up raise in a year.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
And Long and Plummer fought against it, and they compromised up to 18%. I hope they're going to bring it back and make it a policy, because that's what nonprofits do.
Well, that's what Goodwill does. Goodwill's it's like 90% of the stuff money that Goodwill gets goes to their management. 10% goes back to the people. So it's something in those non-governmental, non-profit agencies where it is just a money printing machine, and you just hire people and just raise salaries.
And then you've got Children's Legacy Center here. I wonder what their salary levels are and everything.
Well, if it's a nonprofit, that should be public.
Well, it probably is public. Who's got time to look it up?
It's public, but every time you research it, you get a cease and desist letter from their attorney.
Oh, really?
You know?
Well, they apparently have enough money to hire a lawyer to get a cease and desist letter.
Well, they hire all these ex-government employees.
Of course. Well, if they're at the pig trough, why not just continue feeding at the slop?
That's exactly right. And that's what, Kevin's whole thing about this was, if we're not getting any bang for our buck, let's take our buck someplace else. And here's a fine example.
It's black and white proof. 50 cents of every dollar that these people get go to salaries to people who do nothing, accomplish nothing.
57%.
Do nothing, accomplish nothing, but they bitch when their trough, the water, the spigot is turned down a little bit.
On top of that, they were serving 20 people that have mental health problems.
Okay.
And 100 people that they just kind of drop in and they feed them and take care of their addictions, tell them they don't give them drugs or help them with them, but they encourage them, is the way I'm reading it. And then the, what's this wellness place, this place that just closed down in Bernie? What's the name of our outfit? What's the local place here?
I don't know. It's in your head. I can't.
Health Center in Round Mountain. Anyway, they were running that's it.
Hill Country Health.
Hill Country Health. They're in the same category. I don't know about their salaries and that kind of stuff, but they get money too, and they had to shut down a facility in Bernie that was costing $20,000 a month. Some people came in and talked about it at the supervisors' meeting, and it was more or less just a place to gather. And the state cut off the funds to it, so they're in there trying to blaming the county for it being cut off. See, and that's another thing. All the funds for these are state funds, and we're blaming the county for it.
Well, first off, you're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong.
It's not the state funds. It's yours and my funds and Leslie's funds.
I don't have any funds left by the time they get done with taxes and fees and permits.
You go. That's my
point.
No
fees for Nick and Doug.
That's what I'm saying. So by the time we pay our taxes as an honest American thinking we're doing the right thing, the state steals from us. And then we sit there and go, well, that's the state's money. It's not the state's money. It's our money. And until we, as a people, are sick and tired of being robbed, because it's just going to get worse. There's stuff coming down the pike for housing. There's stuff coming down the pike for taxes. And then you would go on. So when people go, well, it's the state money or it's federal money, it is not. It is our money. We put the taxes in there. And in the federal's case, they just print it up. It didn't exist today, and all of a sudden they printed up a phone. Didn't exist, and all of a sudden it's worth that. But when we say it's the state's money, it's our money. So we give the state steals it, and then they decide who gets it.
Well, that's it.
But it's our money. Let's be clear.
We're going to give you this money, but this is how you have to spend it.
Yeah.
And then they change the rules and don't give us the money. It's kind of like HUD. I had a rental. I rented through HUD.
Yeah.
And they gave me this contract that they would pay like 80% of the rent for this welfare family to move in there, and they would pay for any damages when they left. Well, about 2 or 3 years into the contract, they had their son move in with them, so they wrote me a letter that they are canceling the contract because somebody else moved in and it was null and void. So here I am trying to collect rent from some people that couldn't even pay 20% of the rent.
Mm-hmm.
When I finally got rid of them, they destroyed the property, and HUD wouldn't fulfill their contract to fix it the way they said they would.
But had you flipped this, had the circumstances been different and you had done that to the state would have sicked their lawyers on you and got the money out of you one way or the other. So that's the great thing about government. They can cancel contracts and not adhere to them, and you and I would have to.
But getting back to taxes and fees and that kind of stuff, I've mentioned this before. Tanessa brought up 3 or 4 meetings ago that she wondered how in fact, I think it's going to be on this next city council meeting, which will be next Tuesday, about fees. There's going to be a bunch of new fees. I think she said 25 or 26.
Great.
Well, I got a copy of all the fees in the city of Reading.
It's ridiculous.
There's over 400 fees.
Yes.
And, there's a fee on everything.
Yep. No, the recently deceased city manager, I really thought he was a good guy. Tarbo. We talked about that. I brought up the water heater thing as a matter of fact, in specifics. I said, hey.
Swamp cooler, $40 to put in a swamp cooler, replace a swamp cooler.
Or, I think it used to be like $37 for a permit to change out a water heater. And he said, and that's what I liked about him. He said, he hears about all these miscellaneous, extraneous fees that the government extracts, and it's his goal and hope to modify where some of those fees could be eliminated to the extent that, you got to be reasonable about it. Well, then, unfortunately, he died. So it doesn't surprise me that the city is throwing new fees on the 400 they've already got. Because that's what we need is more government oversight.
If you want to get the economy moving, quit taking our money so we've got it to spend where we want to spend it.
Yeah, but Nick, you miss the.
I use common sense.
Well, you missed the memo that was sent out that liberals live by and Republicans are adopting is. Big government is the way to go. They have to tell us to live in our 15-minute city, what car we can drive, how safe we can be.
You don't need a car in a 15-minute city.
I'm just saying. So you missed that memo.
You've got a 15-minute city right here about a block from us. It's called downtown Reading.
It's a cultural center. I saw a flag that said that. Cultural center.
Oh, okay.
I saw that. It was really, really... I almost cried. It was touching to see a flag that said Cultural Center in Reading. But my point being is you missed the memo is that the government is supposed to tell us how to live our life. So another 28 fees or whatever you've got coming, that's in their mandate. We are too stupid as humans to be able to install water heaters or evaporative coolers.
Well, some people are.
Well, and the results are their own. So that doesn't surprise me. So hopefully Tanessa can somehow maybe get some of those not to be enacted, but I doubt that'll happen. I imagine they're probably already enacted.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I suspect it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Maybe they'll bring Jack Munns back to be mayor for one deal, and we can silence Tanessa, and he can pass it. Jack's running for re-election.
Who?
Jack Munns.
Oh, well, he's done so much.
I know.
He's wow.
So it's.
Let me get it. I got a tear going. That brings a tear to my. I'll let you determine if that's good or bad.
Well, I've thought of a good fundraiser for Tanessa and Mike Mazzano.
Mark Mazzano.
Mark Mazzano.
Yeah.
I think a cage match, and at One River they could split the proceeds.
Oh,
Mark's a short little guy, and Tanessa, I imagine she's pretty cagey. It'd be a pretty good fight.
I tell you what, we will ask Sir Donald Trump to come run it, put lights on it, call it a UFC fight, and then lose $30 to $50 million.
Maybe we can get Sophie Cunningham to come and be the ring girl.
There we go. So I can see where you're going with this, Nick. You're full of love, and you just want them to put money where it needs to go, and that's in their pockets. So by having a fundraiser, they could run their campaigns.
Well, I don't think, in my opinion, I believe both of them have the best for our community at heart, and I don't see where they were taking anything they don't deserve.
I remember when Mazzano was in, and we were doing our radio show there at Carl's place, and we talked about, he came in and was on our show, and then we talked about it. He didn't have a lot of good solutions for the homeless people, but I will say that he was out there, elbows and assholes, going to these camps, talking to these people and everything else, and nobody else was. And so you know, he was on a uphill ice slick slope with no tread on his shoes, sliding down, but he was trying. Gosh darn it, and nobody else was. So
I think Kevin was out there with him.
Kevin, when he decided to run, was I think joining him as well. But yeah, I remember Mark talking about that, and he's trying to get these people off, and he's trying to do this and trying to do that. And
I wonder if he's figured out you can't help him.
You can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped.
Boy, and it's only gotten worse.
Oh yeah, it's getting worse. Yes, there's more of them all the time on our streets, and I mean, where I work down there on Hempstead, the corner that nice pedophile hotel is right there with the arsonists and the pedophiles.
They had a guy giving out gas cans right there at the hotel too.
Really?
Yeah, and a barbecue lighter so the arsonists would feel at home. They'd feel welcome.
A welcome pack.
Hey, I'm not so sure. Let's see. They had a fire at Ricardo, which is about 2 miles from me over next to the freeway.
Yeah.
It's off of Bocelli Lane.
Yeah.
There was a fire in a house I used to live in on Birch Way. It's like 120 yards from my house. It burnt down, I believe it was Monday night.
Oh, wow.
And then I was coming home from downtown here, I think Wednesday, and I saw a structure fire out east someplace.
I'll be down.
And boy, that sure seems, 3 in 1 week or 2 week period, that's an awful lot.
Well, I mean, our fire department responds, I have a client who's in the fire department, and he says they respond all the time to homeless encampments where fires have gotten out. They just get them in time so they're not big news. But he says that's pretty common.
Oh, I'll wager over 50% of their calls are homeless encampments. And where I'm at now, I don't believe that the homeless started this fire unless they were inside. And I'm real familiar with this house. It got flooded during the great flood we had about 3 or 4 months ago.
Oh, yeah, the one that shut down Market Street.
Yes.
And the guy drowned in it, yes.
The guy that was in there walked away from the house. He said, I can't afford to fix it. He owes too much on it. He walked away.
Gotcha.
Another guy bought it
Ooh.
and put some money into it, and it's been on the market for 45 days or so, and it burnt down. But I went to the house, and it's totaled, and the vegetation around the house isn't lit up. They live in the canal, homeless do, right next to the house, and I don't think it started there. I think it started inside, and I hesitate to think that you could start a fire accidentally in that house. Hell, you've got everything. You've got a kitchen. There's a barbecue inside. There's a fireplace with a barbecue set in it.
We had a house there in Reading that had that, yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't think the homeless started this one, but it's just like the police. I asked a police officer a couple of years ago, how many calls do you think are generated that you have to go deal with the homeless? 50%. He said it's way over that.
Well, I think Barner, when he did a presentation to the board months ago, his estimation, which he should probably be exact, he said over 80% of their calls are for the same people.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The same people.
Well, I'm just saying,
that's not necessarily homeless.
Well, I mean, it's dealing with the homeless and the same offenders and the same issues. He says it's about 80%.
Yeah.
And so that means 8 out of 10 calls, they're going back to a place they've already been, going back to a person they've already dealt with. There's that great story.
But they just need some counseling from
They just need love.
Kingsview. They need Kingsview to come and counsel them.
They just need love, Nick.
And if they could have got the Children's Legacy Center in time, they probably would have straightened out their lives if we could have paid for removing all their tattoos.
You've solved
and
the world.
Rehab every time they go back to using drugs. Yes, we can straighten this mess out. In fact, to get more money, let's invite some out-of-town homeless and drug addicts and derelicts to it. Yes.
What an idea. Let's put them on buses and drop them off in the middle of the night.
There you go.
Nick, you and I are on to something. We're on to something, Nick. Let's bring people in from out of the area so they can become our homeless problem. What a great idea.
You two conspiracy theorists, keep it down. That does not happen in Shasta County.
It does not. We know for sure it does not happen, even though there is testimony, as we'll call it, in the Board of Supervisors. And I'm not racist, but she was a black lady, Annie. And she went in there and talked about the fact she saw a bus come in with a bunch of people from San Francisco, and they got their cell phones after they got off.
She went down and talked to them, picked up one of them.
Yes. And so if Annie's lying, And I don't know what to tell you, but she was there telling the story, and it seemed very believable what she was saying. So, Nick, we might not be the original. There might already be people doing that, busing homeless people to us that are bad people.
At Sheriff Johnson's presentation, where they decided to vacate the property down on East Side Road, 90-some acres, for the alternative custody program.
I've got a client that is...
It's kaput on that. They're
it
not
is
going down there.
Oh, good. Okay, because I had a client, while it was still in the running, she was reaching out to me saying if it gets approved, they're gone. But if it has now been dropped dead, maybe she's going to stay. But she said point blank.
It is. It's dropped dead.
Okay.
Going someplace else. But afterwards, Plummer, he's always got a bloviate at the end of everything. And he was talking about the homeless and this and that. And he said the vast majority of the homeless in Reading have been here for 6 years. So I guess he has established 6 years you're a resident of the city of Reading. Reno was sending their derelicts over here 12 and 15 years ago. If they're still here, I guess they're our problem now.
Well, that's the whole thing.
And what I heard too.
Uh-oh, he's pointing fingers, folks.
What I heard too is some of these municipalities are paying the tuition for their derelicts to go to Bethel, and then when they run out of money, they're on our streets. So evidently that's our problem too. I might have just made that up.
Well, you might have made that up, but the question that Mr. Plummer should ask follow-up is, okay, Mr. Plummer, we'll play your game. They're here for 6 years. Question 2, how many interactions with law enforcement have you had since joining up here? And get that number. If it's 1, send them back.
Yes.
Because that way we can say they came here to break the law. We don't accept in our good community.
One's kind of hard. We could give them counseling.
Nope.
Give them another chance.
One, because I guarantee if there's been 1, I'm willing to put a $5, which is worth like 7 cents now, but a $5 bill down that says there's probably been 2. And if there's been 2, I'll put another $1 down, which is worth less than 1 cent, and say there's probably 3.
I have to agree with you. That's a brainstorm.
I'm telling you.
Why don't we contact Plummer? In fact, you want to get Plummer on here? Well, no, he never quits talking.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it'd be great to say, okay, you're going to say that they've been here 6 years, so they're ours now. Ask them one question as a follow-up. Have you had any law enforcement contact? Well, yeah. Here's a bus ticket back to where you came from. End of story.
Good idea. We should propose that to Sheriff Johnson. He's the one that could bring it to refutation.
Well, unfortunately, one of the first people that actually, I think, he had his detractors, he had his people, but Joe Wong's put up $1 million to do that back in the day.
Yeah, the problem is he put the Good News Homeless Magnet in charge of it, and they had stipulations.
Well, they had all kinds of...
I would have just been giving them tickets and said, if you're coming back, we're prosecuting you.
Well, and that's it. I mean, so his stipulation, which was the deal killer, is they had to call ahead of time and have somebody be at the place where they were supposed to get off.
Waiting for
And
them.
if they weren't willing to do that, then they couldn't send them. But I mean, again...
If I had a brother, if they had called and said that to me, I'd have said, hell no.
I'd have said the same thing.
I won't be down there to pick him up. Nobody else wants him either.
Yeah. Well, I got 2 brothers that way. So the point of the matter is for all of his flaws, Joe did try that, and he actually threw $1 million. And I don't know if he had cooperative agreements, but he did try it, and they did send some people home. But doing that today, I don't know if we'll have that kind of...
We could get Jonathan Anderson in here. Well, we sent them home, and some of them found their way back, but some of them didn't. We had a really good success rate, in my opinion. I think 6 of them stayed with their families and got a job.
Hey, I will say...
Rejoined.
Hey.
Hey, what?
Hey.
She must like go Anderson.
I will say, out of all of the nonprofits, out of all of the people doing things, Good News Rescue Mission, since Jonathan Anderson has taken over, has actually produced results and is actually doing things, making a difference for the money given. I will say, and they work hard. They work around the clock. And if you don't know it yet, I will ask him. I would love to have Jonathan Anderson on the show.
Well, you have him on. I don't want to have him on.
If you heard his backstory and you heard why he does what he does.
I've seen his crap too, and I've talked to him. They had a knife fight down there. There was 3 of them fighting. One of them was from Hercules, one was from Florida, and one was from Mount Shasta. They booted them out of the rehab deal. The two from out of town came here for the rehab. They booted them out, and they were across the street.
Yeah.
And on our streets. And that's not an isolated incident.
Well, and I will say this to Leslie's defense. I agree. Their success rate is very low, and I have it from a guy who went through their process and is doing quite well now. But I'm not going to say it's necessarily their fault. Those folks who get into that habit, addiction, crime life, the recidivism is somewhere near 90% in the general population that way. So trying to overturn the Titanic and change course, you have to have somebody who really wants to do it. And so they do offer programs that if you adhere to their rules, I have seen some people who have come through it and done well.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. But why bring them from other communities here and they're on our streets when they fail?
I don't know if they're bringing them.
I don't think that they are bringing them. I think
they're attracting them. They're attracting them.
They're not even that. I think they are the only place here that is trying to do something with who's here. I think we need to look back, and I've had so many people look into it. The city of Redding, about 7 to 10 years ago, took a bunch of San Francisco's homeless.
Yep.
Nobody will give me the answers or details on that, but we brought in the problem in exchange for a large sum of money and continue to bring in other people's problem. And I think the Good News Rescue Mission is one of the very few that is actually trying to do something with the people that get promised the world to come here and take handouts.
Well, you know what, Leslie, is Barner is on record as being an incompetent person in that he expressed absolute dismay publicly in the news how that pedophile hotel would brought in almost 200 pedophiles and arsonists because they had to all come in and register. And
we're having more fires around. Who would have thought?
And he acted like, Leslie, to your point, he acted like they don't know where it's coming from and where's the money. He was the chief of police. If there's somebody that should know how our community is getting 200 people dropped off to this hotel, pedophile hotel, I would think the police chief would be the person to know that information. And he claimed that he did not know and he was going to look into it, and nobody ever came out with any findings. So
they never even let him look.
So when you say that Jonathan, it's not necessarily their fault, I agree with you. I think that there are organizations.
He's trying to do something about it, but I don't think he's having the success rate he thought. And his program for drying out drug addicts has attracted out-of-towners.
Well, people go where they think they can get help. Now,
that's not the only ones that have come in here.
No, I know, but I'm saying I think Leslie's point is people come where they think they're going to get help, whether they get sent here by force or whatever. And I think locally, from the information I have, they're one of the better locations for trying. Their success rate, I think, is still less than 10% because those people just don't want to be rehabbed and get off the streets.
Send them home.
I agree with you. That's what I said. Plumber says 6 years. Question 2, have you had any interaction with law enforcement? Yes. See ya.
Okay, I've got a real estate question for you, Mr. Jenke.
Yes.
I was told by another realtor that people that lived in the car fire, there's a special loan out. It's about $350,000 that will help you buy a house. And there's probably a possibility you won't have to pay it back in 5 years. She gave me an example of somebody that bought a house that was, say, $550,000, and her mortgage and her obligation was $179,000. And that you didn't have to be a homeowner; you could be a renter in that place. Is that true?
Well, I know of the program. I haven't had a single client who has taken it. I had 8 clients lose 9 homes. So one guy actually was lucky and lost 2.
And his wife couldn't get along, so
no,
they had
he
houses
lost his,
side by side.
He lost his
Instead
primary.
of separate bedrooms, they had separate houses.
He had his primary and a rental. They both burned down. So I only had the chance for 8 people to put into that thing. It is a program. I don't agree with it necessarily. Most people who were in the car fire got substantially well compensated by their insurance. There were some people that didn't have insurance, so that's maybe a different story. But I'm sorry, their place is burned. It's been 2018 November, so this will be 8 years. Do we really need to give? Because that money comes from the government. The government steals it from you, Leslie, and I to give it to these people under the auspice, so they may not have to pay it back if they live there for 5 years. They're not doing that for other people who are involved in a carjacking, a stabbing, a rape. You know what? Trauma's trauma. I'm sorry, but the fact of the matter is, I'm not a fan. I have heard of this program. I don't know of a lot of people who use it because there's not a whole lot, a couple hundred that could. We lost 1,000 structures. But still, to give people 350,000 give of mine and your money, I don't agree to that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just curious.
I've heard about it, yes.
I've had
it's not
tell
a joke.
me things that aren't true, so I came to the real estate guru.
Well,
and they have a similar program in Paradise, but you have to pick one of like 4 pre-manufactured homes or one of 4 like templated homes. So there's multiple organizations that all kind of pile into it. So it's just like any other program ran by the government where it's multiple organizations are all tied into it. And so, I mean,
well, the government,
and I will say this, but the car fire, as a rule, if we're going to be generalizing, as a rule, the losses were on the affluent side of the income spectrum. In other words, it was the west side, nice homes, upper middle class people. I will say that is, if you went for like a dynamic, that's kind of what would the avatar be.
Way upper class.
Well, I mean, there was some stuff they burned it, but you go to Paradise. I read a thing way back in the day that said it might have been as much as 40% of the things were pretty crappy, no insurance. I mean, and they lost in one fire. They lost, what was it, 12,000 houses? We lost 1,000. So to a magnitude of 12, they beat us, and they had more uninsured homes than we actually lost homes. So I don't know, Leslie, if there's any right or wrong reason, but I will say a lot of the folks down there were lower income and they didn't have any insurance. And when they lost, they genuinely lost.
They lost everything.
They lost everything.
I mean, in 85 people lost their lives.
Yep.
That was a much, much bigger magnitude fire.
Yeah.
And, you watch the movie and there's airplanes.
That was a great movie. It
was a great movie unless you know people who live there who say there was not one airplane flying that entire day. And you've got the movie with airplanes dropping water. And once the fire took off, they didn't even
Cal Fire
battle
needed
it.
a raise. We got to get some planes in there.
Well, my brother works for the Forest Service, and we've talked about that situation. And he actually works out at the cache at the airport, and he remembers that. And this is going back from conversations when that happened back in 18. In that the wind conditions, because when you have a fire that big, it creates its own weather.
That's right.
And when you have all these canyons, it's creating updrafts and downdrafts and stuff, and throwing the smoke. And they just safely couldn't, because they can't drop water from 10,000 feet. It's going to evaporate before it hits the ground. They've got to get down to hundreds of feet, drop water, and get the hell out. Well, if you can't see the hillside and the wind is buffeting your plane, and there was that famous crash show, God, I want to say 8-10 years ago, where a fire plane down in Southern California dropped in to give it, and its wing literally just fell off as it went down into the canyon. So I won't say that they did that fire exactly right, but I will say that I remember my brother saying that they weren't flying that day because it was too dangerous. So,
well, is there a right way to fight the fire? I mean, every fire is unique.
Well, every fire is,
it basically you're winging it.
Well, you're winging it until the wing falls off. Fires have their own life and their own system. So getting back to Leslie talking about them having to have 4 choices and stuff. Again, it's not government money; it's our money.
They got a choice.
Well, it's yes, Nick. To answer your question, you can bring it back to the
and
final.
They're going to put a grocery store within 15 minutes of every house.
No, I don't know. I've heard of that program, Nick, and I'm sure this agent you spoke to was referring to something that they had been part of. I have not been part of it, but I've heard about it.
Curious. I don't approve of it myself.
I
can see helping the people that didn't have insurance.
Well, I have a deal
I
that
can even see giving them a no interest loan. But you got to pay it back.
Well, here's the deal.
Why
I
are
just
you giving something away?
I just closed an escrow with a young family who were able to buy a $400,000 house, and they qualified, I want to say, for an $80,000 second. No payments. However, it is accruing some interest, and because I think it was a 20% down payment, when they go to refi or sell it down the road, not only do they get the original 20% back, they get 20% of the equity moving forward. So not only was it helping these folks get into a payment they could afford, but there is repayment and interest on that loan. So it is not a gift. I'm okay with that because the government's actually getting their money back.
Sure.
And so let's say the house goes up in value 100,000, the government gets 20,000 of that equity. And so it goes, well, that seems like a lot. Don't give them the loan then. They can't buy the house.
Are there loans, grants out there for down payment assistance?
Absolutely. There's some.
What the heck's that all about?
Well,
I mean, you don't sweat and save and skimp and get a down payment for the American dream. The government's going to give it to you?
Well, it's not that way. There are qualifications, low income, got to have good credit, can't have bad credit. And most of the grant programs that I'm aware of and have had the opportunity to work with clients on is like a 5% grant. So like an FHA loan to 3.5% down. They can get a grant for that 3.5% if they live in the house for 5 years. It's forgiven. So it's small money, but it's yours and my money. And the problem is, Nick, the values have gone up so fast. Statistically speaking, it is nearly impossible for a modern family to save up fast enough to stay up with the price of housing. So you needed 40 grand last year. Well, this year you need 45. Well, next year you're going to need 52. The year after you're going to need 60. And it's becoming impossible, and the only way that a lot of people are able to buy houses is through these special loan programs. Let's qualify it that way. So, but Nick, I mean, we've covered fires and homeless and cops. What else?
Cage fight
and cage. And cage fighting.
I think we better call it a day. I've got to go to work at 10.
And if it's all right with you and Leslie, I will be in here next week with you, if that's okay, because the week after I'm going to be in a truck with a race car heading up to Seattle to go racing.
All right. Yeah, that's fine.
So I'll be with you guys next week at the same bat channel, same bat time.
Okay.
We'll see you next week then. Nick, you want to sign off?
Bye.
Bye.